So let's go through what the CPI is and then how it's calculated real quickly. So the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, is calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS. And the main point of this is to measure how the cost of living changes for consumers over time. And then once you figure out how the cost of living has changed, you can figure out the inflation rate. Think about inflation. Overall cost of living is usually increasing. And then once you have the inflation rate, you can move values over time. So if I know how much inflation there's been since 1950, I can take a 1950 price, move it forward to 2018, but I need to know how much inflation has occurred since the 50s to do that. So let's see how they actually calculate it. So what they do is they create a basket of goods and services that a consumer typically buys, and they fix the basket, meaning it's the same items month after month. So if you think about it, if you change the amount of items in the basket, that would distort the cost of living calculation. For example, if you added more items into the basket one month compared to the previous month, that would make the basket more expensive, making it look like the cost of living has gone up. So you can't do that. It would skew the calculation. So it has to be the same items month after month. You then collect the prices on these items, and obviously the prices change as time goes on. And then you calculate the cost of the basket. One quick thing on this, the cost of a basket calculation is not a CPI yet. It's called the Consumer Price Index. When you index something, you're putting into a reference point, and here there's no reference yet. It's just you have a basket cost. We'll see on the next slide that we reference it to the base here. So this is the actual CPI calculation. It's what is the cost of the basket now on the top. On the bottom is what the basket costs in the base or reference year, and then times 100. So that's how the index is actually set up. And you'll notice that as the basket becomes more expensive, the index will increase, because the top here, the current year, that'll grow, and the base year will be fixed to whatever it cost in the reference year. So as inflation takes place, the CPI numbers get larger and larger. So then from there, we calculate the inflation rate, and the inflation rate is just a percent change in the CPIs. So the CPI this year minus what it was previously divided by what it was previously times 100. One quick thing on the inflation rate calculation, just bringing up what we saw on the previous slide. I want to point out that the inflation rate is really just a percent change calculation. You've done percent changes before. What did your grade change by? Sometimes they do them in accounting. And all a percent change is your end value minus your start divided by your start. So your end CPI minus your start CPI divided by your start times 100. So the inflation rate really is just a percent change in CPIs. If there's no percent change in CPIs, like it didn't change this year compared to the previous year, then there's no inflation. So this really isn't a new calculation for you. You've done it before. It's just taking it and applying it to the CPIs. So we'll do the actual CPI calculation in the next video.